Good evening, campers. Time for another story time. So grab your stuffy and a blanket and snuggle on up because I have a Shavuot story tonight called Kopecks for Blintzes by Judy Goldman, illustrated by Susan Batory. Chelm was a small town, like many in Poland, except for two very important differences. The first was that the townspeople there were so foolish that they all believed they were the wisest people on the earth. The second was that they had 13 commandments instead of the usual 10. This is the tale of how they received 3 extra commandments. One evening, Yankel and his wife Gidela were sitting in their tiny slanted house at the top of the steepest hill in Chelm. All was quiet. Shh. Their many sons and daughters were asleep. Yankel sighed deeply. Gidela asked, "What's wrong?" Yankel said, "In a couple of weeks it will be Shavuot. Everyone will celebrate Moses receiving the 10 commandments. Just this morning, the rabbi reminded us that because the Torah and the commandments are sweet on the tongue, on Shavuot we should eat food prepared with milk and honey. That means blintzes, but we cannot afford ingredients for blintzes." This was true. Yankel earned very little as a melamed, a teacher. And with so many children to clothe and feed, he and Gidela had little to spare. Gidela sighed too. If only we had a few coins, then I would make the best blintzes. They sat lost in thought, imagining blintzes stuffed with cheese, smothered in sour cream, and dripping with honey or strawberry preserves. Suddenly, Yankel jumped up. "I know what we can do," he cried. "Remember that old trunk that my great-aunt Fruma gave us as a wedding gift?" Gidela wrinkled her nose. Who could forget it? It's so big and awful that it's been in the backyard since she gave it to us. "That old trunk is going to solve our problem," said Yankel. They ran to the backyard. Yankel examined the ugly, dirty trunk from all angles. Then he took Gidela his idea. "I'll make a small hole in the top of the trunk. Every day we'll each drop in a kopek." Can you guess what kopek means? Probably some money. "In a couple of weeks, we'll open the trunk and use the coins to buy ingredients for blintzes." Gidela clapped her hands. "What an excellent plan, Yankel. You are one of the wisest men in town." Gidela and Yankel washed and cleaned the trunk and even greased the very squeaky wheels. When they finished, Yankel cut a hole in the top and dropped in a kopek. Gidela dropped in a coin too. "We'll be eating blintzes in no time," said Yankel. The next afternoon, Gidela fished a kopek out of her apron pocket and went to the trunk, ready to drop it in. But suddenly she thought, why should I put in a coin when Yankel brings home money from his teaching every day? Let him do it. So she put the coin back into her pocket. That's kind of greedy. That night, when Yankel came home, he searched in his vest pocket for a kopek. He was about to drop it into the trunk when he thought, why should I put in a coin if Gidela will add one every day? She must have plenty of money left over after taking care of household expenses. With what she puts in, surely there will be enough for the blintzes. So he put the coin back into his pocket. And this went on for several days. On the morning before Shavuot, Gidela, Yankel, and their children gathered in front of the trunk. Yankel lifted the lid, and everyone peered in. We've been robbed, gasped Yankel. Oh, Gewalt, Gittela wailed. Those thieves left us only 2 coins. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she looked at Yankel. Tell me the truth, Yankel. Did you drop in your coins? Well, no. I knew yours would be enough. Yankel's eyes widened. You mean you didn't drop in your coins either? Well, if you had put in your coins, we would have had enough, snapped Gittela. Yankel groaned. Now we won't eat blintzes, and it's all your fault. If you weren't so stingy, this never would have happened, Gittela yelled. She jabbed Yankel in the chest with her finger. He stepped back, tripped, and lost his footing. Help, he cried, grabbing Gittela by her apron as he tipped over into the trunk. Gittela fell into the trunk on top of him. The lid slammed shut, and slowly the trunk rolled out of the yard and down the hill. As the trunk rolled onto the crowded street, it gathered speed. Oi, oi, Yankel yelled. Gewalt, Gewalt, Gittela shouted. People scrambled to get out of the trunk's way. It narrowly missed an old woman who made a sign to ward off the evil eye. There's a demon in the trunk. I heard it yelling. The forces of evil have come to Helm. A crowd of scared but very curious people ran after the trunk. At last it reached the bottom of the hill and rolled to a stop in front of the synagogue. The rabbi who had been decorating the synagogue with Shavuot greens looked up in surprise. He approached the trunk and heard muffled sounds coming from inside. As he reached out to lift the latch, a man yelled, Don't touch it, Rabbi! There are books inside, a woman added. If they're let loose, we'll be lost. The rabbi's gentle face paled. He reached for his prayer book and turned page after page looking for a prayer to banish the books from Helm. When he finally found it, he closed his eyes, swayed back and forth, and mumbled the words. The townspeople stepped back, just in case the prayer hadn't done its job. Ever so slowly, the rabbi opened the trunk, and out popped Gittela and Yankel. Everyone stared. How did you come to be in this trunk? Asked the rabbi. When he had heard the story, the rabbi sighed. Go home, everyone. This has been a terrible experience for all of us, so I must think of a way to prevent it from happening again. The rabbi went to his study and consulted his books. All night he searched for an answer. The following morning, during Shavuot services, right after the 10 Commandments were read, the rabbi announced 3 new commandments. They were written in big black letters on a board and placed at the entrance to the synagogue. Thou shalt allow no melamed of Helm to live on a hill. That's no teacher should live on a hill. Thou shalt allow no melamed teacher of Helm to make blintzes. Thou shalt allow no melamed of Helm to own a trunk with wheels. And they are there still, reminding everyone that Helm is home to the world's wisest fools. The end. I hope that for Shavuot you can enjoy a sweet treat on your tongue, something made of milk and honey to remind us of the sweet words of our Torah. Happy Shavuot, everybody. Good night.